Hello everyone, Rob Guest from Football.London here, and welcome to the latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. Joining me as ever, it's Alasdair Gold. You well?
Yeah, I'm good. I can see you are. Fresh trim for the new season. Looking slightly different with that new trim. Taking years off you.
Years.
Years.
Thank you.
That makes it sound like you're ancient. Oh dear. Anyone who's listening on the podcast, come across to YouTube and have a look.
Right, it's a busy week at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We have the final day of the transfer window tomorrow, 11 p.m. Friday, August the 30th. We've got an Ange Postecoglou press conference. We've got the Europa League draw as well. We've had the Carabao Cup draw, and since we last did the podcast at the beginning of the week, one transfer outgoing has happened and one potentially in the pipeline. So we'll start with the player who has headed out of the door already, and that's Manel Solomon, who's joined Leeds United on a season-long loan deal. Good move for him.
Yeah, I think so. I think it. I think it works for all parties, doesn't it? Really, he gets game time, gets to kind of get back to where he was in terms of his sharpness, hopefully, because if I'm going to be brutally honest, hasn't looked great over the summer, hasn't really kind of found his groove again yet, which is understandable. Was it 10 months out? Something like that. It was a long, long time.
Yeah, start of October, wasn't it, when he got injured? So, yeah, probably around 10 months.
Yeah, so good move for him, I think. Leeds are just one of those kind of big Premier League clubs, essentially, that are playing a level below. So that's good for him and them. I think they, especially the players they've lost, I think he's a decent kind of addition to their squad. And in terms of Tottenham, they've just got so many wingers. They've got so many wingers. He wasn't even get close to it. And to be honest, 17-year-old Mikey Moore was keeping him out of the summer-friendly lineup. So yeah, it's a good move all round. It's just a loan at this point, nothing more to it, and no options or anything at this stage. So yeah, it's a good chance to rebuild. And I mean, we can't forget that he was a free transfer for Spurs as well. So it's not like they've kind of wasted loads of money or anything like this. Obviously, I think Shakhtar still have some ideas on this and whether it ends up being a free transfer or not. But yeah, I think it's a good move for him. And in the Championship, if he can get back to the level he was pre-injury, he should be a very, very good player in that division.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking the other day, Spurs and Leeds have done a number of deals over the past couple of seasons. Joe Rodon, Jed Spence went on loan last season. Joe Rodon's gone permanently this summer. Spurs bringing in Archie Gray from Ellen Road. And then there was, a couple of years ago, Leeds had a problem with the pitch, didn't they? And they ended up getting one from Hotspur Way.
Good memory, yes. Yes, they did, didn't they? Yes.
So plenty of deals between
Does that count
two.
as a transfer?
The first one, the main one, will go with. But yeah, I think it's a good move for him. I think what probably will help him is the fact Leeds going to be pushing for promotion, so there's going to be a lot of positivity there. It's not like you're going to go to maybe a club who's struggling and things just don't work out that well. And Leeds need some, attacking players coming in through the door. They lost Somerville to West Ham. Ruter went to Brighton as well. So I think there's going to be an opportunity there to play football. And the likes of Somerville, Nonto, Dan James, they did really well last season under Daniel Farke. And fingers crossed the same happens for Solomon. I think it's just a case of he just desperately needs the minutes. I mean, it wasn't just last season where he had injury issues. Go to the previous year when he was on loan at Fulham. What did he play? About 6 months of the season and had a bit of a serious injury.
It was the other knee, wasn't it? Wasn't it like a similar injury, but the other knee?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that happened really early on in the season as well. And then he came back probably around January time, had a purple patch in front of goal, then ended up moving to Spurs. So, as you said, didn't quite work out for him in pre-season. I think his last appearance was the Vissel Kobe game and then didn't appear in any of the games after that. But I think given he last played Liverpool game, end of September. You're never going to be sharp. It was just a case of getting the minutes back into the legs. And yeah, there's going to be plenty of football on offer at Leeds United, and fingers crossed it'll be another really good loan spell.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of part of this little kind of run of outgoings that I think we're going to see over the next 24 hours or so. What was it, 36 hours roughly, something like that? When we're recording this, I don't know when it's actually going to come out, but yeah, no. For Manel Solomon, it's a good move, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on him in our loan roundup each week.
Another one for the loan roundup, someone you've reported on this morning, and that's George Abbott. He's set to go to Notts County in League Two on loan. He's someone who I think the time's probably right for him to step up into senior football and get that regular experience under his belt, because it's all well and good playing for the under-21s, but it's not a likeness to senior football. And some have said before, like, they needed to go out and learn. And I think sometimes as well, you realise the pressures these players are under when you're playing for bonuses and that to help pay your mortgage off and other things as well. So I think that'll stand him in good stead. And I know some might point to the fact it's League Two. We've seen moves before where a player maybe goes to the Championship or League One and it doesn't quite happen. And these loans, it's the player's first chance to play regular football in senior men's football. So, League Two's not a bad division at all for them. Notts County are a decent team. It's going to be a chance to play minutes then. We've seen before when Spurs have, loaned players out maybe to League Two, that they'll review it in January and then maybe, bump them up a division. Happened with Keon Atete. I think was he at Northampton and went to Cheltenham, or the other way around. It was one of
I'm trying which way around. I think it was Northampton first, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think it was. It was. We'll double check, but that's an example.
Or Alfie last season was a good one.
Yeah, very much so. So for you, again, I mean, this is just exactly what he needs at this stage of his career.
Yeah, he's had a terrific year or so, just over a year. He made his Premier League debut, didn't he, in the last game of the season, summer before Ange came, wasn't it? It was just before then. And that was a massive moment for him. And just the last year, just continued to develop hugely. They've been so pleased with him within the club. He's about halfway through the season, became the captain of the under-21s, had the armband in every game after that point, helped them to the league and playoff double that they managed, the under-21s in the Premier League 2. He's been in and around the first team, doing lots of training with them, got taken on a tour, got a few pre-season minutes on the tour, before the tour. It's very versatile, which is always going to help a player. He can play essentially across midfield or defence, really. And yeah, there was a feeling that he might be kept around, which is even the phrasing "kept around" kind of shows why it's not the right thing. But kept around to, I guess, keep the under-21s numbers higher with some more experienced players. I mean, he's only 19, but he does have that experience at that level now. But I just think as soon as you can get these young players a chance to play proper, exactly as you said, first team football, senior football, with the responsibilities that comes with that, get them out there and do it. I think people get a little bit too hung up on the level. I think that's probably, I don't know, people look too much for they should be playing at whatever Championship, Premier League, whatever it is. There's two sides to this. First off, it's about the minutes. Doesn't matter if you're going to a Championship team where you'll play 10 minutes a week, if that, or you go to a League One team or a League Two team where you're playing every single minute and you're a massive part of that team. That's the better move. It doesn't matter about the level. It's the key to improving your all-round game. That's the key thing. That's one side. The other side also, and I'm not saying this about George Abbott's case, but this is something I always notice about other kind of players heading out on loan, is people say, oh, they should have been sent there, should have been sent to this club, should have been sent to that club. It's not often those clubs are there. It's like in actual loan moves, you have a few players like, I don't know, Will Lancashire and Jamie Donnelly are good examples this year of queues, pretty much clubs queuing up to come and take them. There were a lot, and then they had to pick the right move. But on the whole, and this includes players in the first team as well, there's such a limited. You can have interest, you can have people that admire players, all that sort of kind of terminology, but ultimately, ones that actually make a serious offer, it's probably only one or two. It's probably not as many as people think it actually is. So this kind of idea that they could have gone to a higher level, whatever. Don't forget those clubs at a high level probably aren't going to take a chance on a player in the under-21s who's only experienced under-21s football. It's a big risk, especially if they're clubs with a lot to play for and things like that. So if you can get a good move, and it seems like this is a good move, get him playing some football, come back. We'll see. Like you said, January they maybe revisit it, or he comes back next summer, and you can guarantee the way he is a very kind of quick learner from everything I understand, a very, very technically talented player as well, and tactically understands the game. I think he'll just continue to push on and probably be a part of the tour again on pre-season next year. Yeah, it's a good one for him. I'll tell you what it does mean though, and that under-21s team has been ripped apart, hasn't it, from the one that won the league?
Yeah, but I think that shows the sign of a successful team, because they need to go out and take that next step. It's all well and good playing against 16, 17, 18-year-olds. It's not the same as playing against the experienced pros. There's a huge step between under-21 football and senior football, and it's what it is. Yeah, people would like that team to stay together and just build on how good they were last season. But these are academy players who want to take the next step in their career and make it into the first team of Tottenham. And it's very rare you're going to see someone actually do that from under 21 straight into the Spurs first team. They need to go out and learn the trade. So there's been some good moves. Some have moved on permanently, the likes of Niall John, Jude Sunsup-Bell. But I think, another one. But as I said, I just think it shows the signs of how successful they were last season. Other teams want to bring them in and see what they can do.
Yeah, and ultimately, that's the point of an academy, is to produce players for your first team. Then, if not, players that can go and play senior professional football elsewhere, whether that be on loan or permanently. That's the whole aim of it. And it's wonderful when they can win trophies. It's great. It was lovely to be able to report on them kind of lifting silverware and everything else. But that's not the be all and end all of academy. That's probably not it. That's probably priority number 2, 3, whatever that's down the list. It's just about developing players and creating your own ones. I just remembered the other kind of loan that people kind of say, going back to those, was when you have a foreign player who everyone says, it would have been better to send them to an English team, get them used to the league and all that. And that's often when there are no English teams that want to loan them. So they end up going abroad. They just kind of flick back into my head. But yeah, I hope people give the under-21s a bit of leeway this season. I really hope they do, because I feel like there's going to be some people that maybe aren't as aware of under-21s football, who from the outside might look at it and go, why the league, the league reigning champions right down there in this massive Premier League 2 table kind of thing. Oh my goodness, what a mess Tottenham are in, and that. And it will be because they lost so many players, all the ones we just mentioned: Sunsup-Bell, John, Santiago, Jamie Donnelly, even Matthew Craig played a few games from last season, 8, 9 games. Will Lancashire, he's going to be with the first team this season. He'll play the odd under-21s game to keep sharp, but yeah, he's not going to be part of that group. So that's immediately 32 goals taken out the front of your attack. And then, Tyrese Hall, there's a chance he might not be there. We'll see. Tyrese has been made available for loan to get him some kind of move. I think the expectation or the hope is that it would have to be, again, guaranteed minutes and probably League One and above. So we'll see over the next 36 hours or so whether that goes through. But if not, I don't think there's any concern about him sticking around, because he only played half a season of under-21s football last season. Didn't quite work out for him this summer with the first team. He was included, which is a big thing. But I think after that kind of had a bit of an iffy kind of little cameo against QPR where he came on, only was on for about 19 minutes and was taken off again. Unless I'm wrong, I don't think he played another minute after that in pre-season, unless there were a couple of minutes somewhere on the tour.
I can't think of him.
I can't remember him coming on. So yeah, all that means is you regroup, you reset, and if there's a loan, that's great. And if not, he's already started the under-21 season very well. Scored a couple of goals against Chelsea. Very talented player, and he is still only 19. I think he is 18, 19. He's very young. So yeah, he can just kind of crack on and catch the eye again. Who else might go out of that group? Josh Keeley. Josh Keeley could head out from those under-21s. He's currently, I think, Orient are the ones that are probably the most interested in him, unless someone else comes in over the next 24 hours or so. That would be good. Have him and Jamie Donnelly at the same club together. That's always helpful if you know someone. I think Jamie Donnelly's settled in very well. He's doing very, very well. That's an example of people saying maybe he should have gone to the Championship. He is there, like fulcrum of their attacking endeavours right now at Orient, already at 19 years old. Brilliant move so far for him. But yeah, that under-21s team, they're going to have a lot of young players who are going to have to come in and take on other clubs that will have 19, 20-year-olds, maybe even 21-year-olds in their team. So yeah, just please be patient with them, because they may not be as good in terms of results, but we may see some young players come through in the circumstances. And actually, that's kind of what happened 2 years ago. They got relegated. The league format changed, kept them up. They won the league the next season. It just shows you there's so many factors that can contribute to how a young team does.
I think it works in cycles, doesn't it? You're going to have years when the team does well, then players go their separate ways, then the struggle, the next batch of talented kids come through. Same international football as well. It always happens in cycles. Someone else who hopefully will be on the move before Friday's 11 p.m. deadline, Alfie Divine. I think we probably all thought he'd have been out of the door already and getting a good loan move, but it's just not quite happened for him. But I think it was Dane Scarlett to Ipswich. That was a late deadline day move, maybe last year, maybe the day before. So it could still happen. I don't personally see the benefit of keeping him around for the first 6 months of the season. I can't see where his football's going to come from. I know we've said before, maybe in the Carabao Cup, Coventry away, that's a tough tie. I don't think he'd be certainly not starting, maybe minutes off the bench if he's lucky. And then you're looking at the Europa League, and again, that's probably all going to be dependent on the draw. I think it's more beneficial Alfie going out for the first 6 months of this season and then looking at the situation. So hopefully he is on the move, because I think he needs to build on, a really good loan spell at Port Vale, and then time at Plymouth maybe didn't go to plan, but I think when you look at the year as a whole, it was a really successful time for him, because he's quite clearly come back to Spurs in the summer, kicks on from where he was the previous year, and again caught Ange Postecoglou's eye and got minutes in the first team.
Yeah, I thought he had a great summer. I thought he did really well. But I just wonder whether maybe that hasn't materialised into as many kind of interested clubs. I mean, as I said earlier, I think even with Dane Scarlett, I don't think there was a lot of actual submitted kind of submitted loan bids from clubs came in the end, and that's kind of resulted in him. I'm not saying he wouldn't have chosen Oxford anyway, but already the Oxford loan is a bit like, he's going to need a chance to get more minutes than he currently is. It maybe wouldn't have been the ideal choice. I don't know. That's just me kind of speculating, but with Alfie, it's they'll have to see what comes in. I think for him, he needs a loan, absolutely. I wouldn't be devastated technically. I don't think Postecoglou would if he stuck around. I do think as cover, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And I do think they would try to get him some game time in those cup competitions as well. But as you say, Coventry away is not easy at all. And Europa League, we'll talk about that a little bit later and the potential teams. There's a chance you could get quite a tough set of like 8 teams you're going to be up against. There is, this isn't like, footballing backwater. It's not like an absolutely terrible teams you're going to be up against. There are some very decent. There's probably, looking at it, I was a bit like, that's actually a higher standard of teams in there than I really expected there to be. So yeah, this kind of thought that, do you remember like the Pesos de Ferreira game when Nuno in the Conference League chucked out like a million young players and they lost 1-0. I remember sat inside that stadium. There's an empty state. Was it empty stadium? Well, there weren't many fans because it was COVID time. Yeah, I think anyone expecting it to be sticking out the weakest possible team you can and you'll still breeze through it, that's not what this competition is going to be. So yeah, for Alfie, if he does stick around, I do think to be able to get some minutes late in those games is not the worst thing in the world. But I think for the player, definitely needs a move in these last 24 hours or so, and hopefully for him, he gets it.
So, final 24 hours of the window, what's going to happen from a Tottenham perspective? I think, as ever, all fans will be fully focused on incomings. Will they get the wish?
Oh. Do you know, this is my 17th transfer deadline day. I worked it out. I had to do like a little piece the other day, and I worked out it's my 17th.
So have you counted the ones when you were on holiday for them, or have you
yes,
left them
out? Yeah. Have I missed? I missed one, didn't I?
I think you might have missed a couple.
I'm disputing that, but you could be right. Yeah, I hadn't actually taken that into account at all. I think I just worked out 2 a year kind of thing, and then is that even 2 a year? That doesn't even make sense. How can it be 17? There definitely was. I worked out there was one. That's anyway. I've tangled myself up there. I think this could end up being maybe one of the quieter ones, unless some opportunities suddenly arise in the market. I think as it stands right now, it kind of seems like the incomings are done, but that's not to say something won't arise tomorrow. It's such a I can just see like immediately aggregators. Gold says Spurs are done. I said at this moment in time, it's trending towards that, but that's absolutely you can't just say that the day before deadline day. I think you could probably say it at some stage on deadline day, but I'm not absolutely categorically not saying Spurs are completely done on the 29th of August. We'll know more of that probably, maybe even by the presser. Ange might actually come out and say something like that. But it would kind of require one of the players that they've been interested in suddenly being freed up and on the market. We're not saying that they're just going to sign anyone that just happens to pop up and happens to be on the market. Otherwise, you'd go for someone like a Chiesa, who's obviously now at Liverpool. Whereas Chiesa clearly was not one of their original targets, and they didn't go for him. So I can't imagine that they would suddenly abandon all their plans for just anyone that rocked up in the last couple of minutes. It would very much be that someone on their list suddenly becomes available. I think the focus, of course, is going to be on the outgoings. Lo Celso and Reguilon, there's going to be some nervy moments, I would imagine, in the next 36 hours or so, trying to get them out of the club. I mean, you're more of an expert than me on this. Once the English window closes, what other windows are still open?
Netherlands and Portugal are Monday.
Okay.
I don't know what time on Monday. I think Saudi Arabia's reportedly Monday as well. They were initially saying that was like October the 6th, but that's not the case. People are saying now Monday the 2nd for Saudi. Greece is like Wednesday the 11th, I think. Turkey's Friday the 13th. And I mean, prime example, last year, window shut in England, but then Davinson Sanchez and Tanguy Ndombele went to Galatasaray a few days later. So options there. It's actually going to be really interesting what happens with them, because Reguilon, it's over a month ago since he was left out of the squad for Japan and South Korea to explore potential transfer opportunities. Brian Hill went within a week of being left out. Reguilon's still at the club, and I think his previous loan moves, they were really late in the window as well. Atletico Madrid, Manchester United. So it might go right down to the wire for Reguilon. Let's be honest, he's going to want the best possible move in European football. So there might be opportunities there for him in Turkey if the window shuts as well. We'll have to wait and see. I think Real Betis have been linked with Lo Celso. So whether that comes to fruition or not, we'll have to wait and see. It's just a really interesting one.
They're both higher earners as well, aren't they? That's the problem.
And the contract status doesn't help them out, because let's be honest, clubs, if they're interested in these players, aren't going to pay their true market value, because they know they can either from January speak to them about a pre-contract agreement for the summer or then just sign them as free agents in the summer. So from a Tottenham perspective, is it like, well, say, for example, Betis have offered us 5 million less than we want for Lo Celso. Do you just take it? Because you are in the position where you will lose him for nothing a few months down the line.
Yeah, and then also you have to agree to, I suppose you have to kind of write off the whole, there's a wage side to it as well, isn't it? Because without knowing Betis's financials, I'd probably be surprised if they were going to be able to pay Lo Celso the same amount of money, which then means Spurs have to do some kind of payoff, I presume, as part of the deal to kind of cover that those lost wages. So yeah, it's one of those that looks so easy from the outside. It's like get those players out, but actually in the logistics of it, it's really not as simple as that at all. Especially as they're in the final year of their contract. Spurs. There's a few transfer situations over the last couple of years. They've really got themselves in some daft positions, and these two, another couple of them. It's a funny one because Lo Celso especially, it's a really good player. I think a lot of clubs could do very well. I think there's a few Premier League clubs who could do very well with him. Surprised Villa haven't made a bit more of a play for him. Reguilon's, he's had more of a mixed record. I thought he did all right for Brentford, although having spoken to some people at Brentford, they kind of played that down a bit and didn't kind of made out that he wasn't quite as good as people thought. Maybe that's because they weren't going to sign him. I don't know, but yeah, they're the two big ones that we're kind of keeping an eye on in terms of outgoings. And you never know, there might be a surprise late one, especially with the squad registration stuff.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice though if you turn up to Ange's press conference, he walks in the room and a new signing comes in with him as well? Imagine that would happen. But
that would be kind of like Alan Sugar and Jurgen Klinsmann kind of thing on the was it the dock? I was trying to remember where it was. He did that now. Was it when he was? I just feel like I remember yachts in the background and it all being very kind of smart and fancy. Yeah, I don't think that's Spurs' way. I think the media would be the last to kind of get the thing. They'd have to do some fancy little video first for everyone and big tease. Yeah, but without going into the whole registration squad stuff, even that has to be balanced out. Someone would have to be left out of the Europa League squad or moved on, and no doubt that's something that kind of is also part of their thinking. Although they're kind of trying to make out it's not. It kind of has to be because otherwise you're going to have a very unhappy person that comes in. Yeah, it's going to be a strange transfer window though. Deadline day, because just kind of both of us are going to be so busy with other stuff as well, to have the Europa League draw, to have the press conference. I mean, sometimes I remember one day, I think it was the day, was it when Danny Rose injured his knee at Sunderland?
Sunderland away, yeah.
Yeah, that was a transfer deadline day as well, and kind of everything then was on the match. It must make it slightly more difficult for the club to kind of not tomorrow because there's no match, but on a match day to kind of do deals as well when the bulk of people are kind of traveling and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be another interesting one. Obviously, we'll be covering it in full. I think you're in the morning shift. I'm doing the evening shift. I don't know who's got the better deal there. Probably you, I would imagine, as you'll have your evening.
Yeah, and I'll get to do the Europa League vlog as well, what should be interesting. Before we get onto the Europa League draw, we'll first tell you about the benefits of using NordVPN.
Yes, talking of heading across Europe and things like that as well. And I'm sure while you're in the barbers as well, on their public Wi-Fi to help your security, you may have logged into your NordVPN as well. Because yes, not only does NordVPN help you if you want to head off abroad and watch shows from back in the UK, or likewise, you might want to watch shows from abroad while you're in the UK, because you can set your device to thinking it's anywhere in the world. It's also very, very helpful service for security. If you're having to use public Wi-Fi, it can play its part in trying to keep those nasty people from getting into your devices and taking things off of them. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world. That means there's no buffering, there's no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without that bandwidth throttling, which is never something you want. Something I've used so many times over the years. I can't kind of talk highly enough about it because it's bailed me out on a number of occasions when I've needed to be able to watch something from back home, whether it be even some foreign locale and wanting to watch Tottenham still, despite my wife not being overly ecstatic about me doing it, NordVPN has allowed me that opportunity to probably annoy her and ultimately pay for it. But there you go. Yeah, and also because they're partners of the show, we get a great discount for anyone that wants to sign up for NordVPN, and you can get the best discount off your NordVPN plan if you go to nordvpn.com/Gold Guest. Our link will give you 4 extra months on top of the 2-year plan. So there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee either. And in case you missed it, that link, the URL, is in the podcast episode description box.
Before we speak about Friday's Europa League draw, a couple of other bits to discuss first. Lucas Bergvall's got an international call-up to Sweden. They play Azerbaijan and Estonia. So an opportunity for him to play for the national team. As you pointed out to us earlier, he does already have a senior cap. This came back in January. I was having a look at the team, and
it's a young team, wasn't it? It's like a B, almost like a B side.
I think it's one of these where it's like they've got the players from the Allsvenskan to play, maybe just like a warm-up game, because it was in Greece against Estonia, and the attendance was 100. Just looking at it, so
are you trying to say it wasn't the biggest draw?
No, it comes across as more of a training game. But
was it in a non-international break? I feel like I vaguely remember that. Yes, okay.
This was early January, so there was no Kulusevski, Isaac, Gyökeres, Lindelof, players, this quality playing. I think it was more for like the Allsvenskan players, but technically it's still an international cap, and Lucas will of course count it.
Yeah, and this is to actually get in the squad when everyone else is in it. It's huge for him. It's great, and it shows what a move to the Premier League will do for you as well. And we've kind of seen how exciting he is as well. I mean, he's a terrific player. Him and Archie Gray, and I'm sure we'll get to this end of this transfer window, and we'll all, myself included, have little gripes about things that weren't done. Little positions that could have been still fixed further, or even more experience. But I just think Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall are going to be a pair of players that we're going to look back in 2 or 3 years, remembering like the summer of 24 when they both signed. I think they're going to be that kind of level of players. Just everything I've heard, not even just the stuff you and I have kind of watched and seen them in the matches, but just behind closed doors in the training sessions, just how good these two are and how they are seen as, they're not seen as 2 18-year-olds. They are seen as 2 incredibly talented Tottenham first-team players that are going to play minutes galore this season as it goes on. We talk about those European games probably going to be perfect for someone like Bergvall early on while he's trying to get his first starts, and Gray as well. And then swiftly, a certain, I know I'm not comparing them directly, but a certain Harry Kane kind of made his point in European games before being unleashed by Pochettino in the Premier League properly. Lucas Bergvall, big moment for him. Very kind of cool to be kind of in there with Kulusevski as well. Did you see that little video yesterday where they had to name their best mate? And like Decky's already naming Lucas, isn't he, as his best mate? There was some funny ones in there as well, weren't there? Brendan Johnson walking at the end, just going, "Matters." That was it. So okay, we get it. Everyone loves
to see who Richarlison had picked now, because he would have said Emerson, and everyone was saying that who would he pick? But everyone loves Fraser Forster.
He is beloved within that club. Everyone just raves about kind of his personality and also as what professional he is as well. But for Bergvall, going back to him, it's a great next step for him, and it's more exposure to football at an international level, which is only going to bode him well in his confidence in the Premier League.
Staying on the international front, we've finally discovered the punishment coming Rodrigo Bento's way following that, really bad post-match scenes after Uruguay lost against Colombia in the Copa America in July. Bento was seen, hurling a bottle into the crowd, struck one of the members of his own. I think,
as well,
yeah, 2 struck one of the members of the Uruguay backroom team. Darwin Núñez of Liverpool, he was seen, confronting the fans as well when it was all kicking off post-game. And CONMEBOL, they've dished out the punishments. Darwin Núñez got a 5-game ban and the fine. Can't remember how much the fine was, but for Bentancur, he will miss Uruguay's next 4 international matches, and he's got a $16,000 fine. Do you know who he will be? His first international game back will be against.
Is it going to be against England then, or something like that? Is it
Colombia?
That should have been my second guess. Oh, you can't make it up, can you? They haven't looked at the schedule there, have they, when they thought about that one?
No.
Do you think he's, without saying, kind of trying to make too light of it, but do you think he's kind of got away with it a bit, that the coach that he hit with the bottle, as we kind of spoke about in the past, that hits his eye? I think it's become such a bigger thing. I think he's kind of very fortunate it's caught him on the head.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably talking a matter of millimeters, aren't you, really? That could make such a massive difference. So, I mean, the ban was always going to come his way. I think I said at the time, I only thought he might be like a couple of matches. But they've obviously deemed it worthy of being a 4-match ban. So that's 2 sets of qualifiers in September and then October. He'll miss. I mean, bad for him that he won't be playing international football, but from a Tottenham perspective, maybe not a bad one for him. Has a chance to rest up unless Bielsa wants him part of the training group. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be weird. It's not like it hasn't happened, but yeah, if you're Spurs, you're just going, no, you're right, just stay here, that's fine. I agree with that side of things, and I should also say, look, we understand the context of what it all happened within, and we understand that entirely. There was a fear for kind of families, but yeah, it still doesn't make it an intelligent thing to do, and it could have made things so much more worse. But there you go. So that's that, and we're still waiting to find out exactly what happens with the FA. We're looking into his comments about Sonny as well, which still has to be kind of addressed in a way by the FA. There hasn't been any update on that as of yet. I haven't asked in the last couple of days. I probably should chase up on that. And I think Spurs were then waiting to see what the FA decided before they kind of did anything on it. So we've kind of still got to hear on that. But at least we kind of now have something definitive. And internationally, that'll keep him out for a while. But it will also, as you say, kind of benefit Spurs in a way that he'll just be able to train over those weeks and get himself back into what looked like before the head injury, of course, looked to be quite a good version of Bentancur out on the pitch.
Yeah, Ange has got quite a tough decision now to make, whether Bentancur comes back in for Bissouma or Bentancur, is on the bench against Newcastle on Sunday. But these are the big calls that the manager wants. But if it comes to it, he's still such a good player to bring off the bench. Bentancur, he's just going to be desperate to play now and make up for lost time. Injuries just haven't gone his way over the past 18 months or so. Wednesday evening, we saw the Carabao Cup round 3 draw. Tottenham were in it. Bit of a different draw to usual, because the teams involved in Europe, except for Chelsea, they were all separated just so they couldn't play each other, because I think one midweek round there's going to be Champions League fixtures, then the following midweek there's Europa League and Conference League games. So Spurs have been drawn against Coventry. It's a great tie for the neutral, I think. Maybe not the best one from a Tottenham perspective, having to go to Coventry, who are a really, really good Championship team at the moment, signed some good players, got a good manager there. So it's going to be a tricky one, but it could have been a lot worse with Premier League teams, in the hat.
Yeah, they have started quite well, Coventry. They haven't had too shabby a start to the season at all. I was trying to think of, I was saying this to you earlier, I think the Rico Arena, I think I've only ever been there to interview someone once. I don't think I've ever watched a game there. So that'll be kind of, I'm going to count that as a new ground. What do you think about? Obviously, this was one of the things that came up when people saw the kind of messy nature of that draw. What do you think of the status of the Carabao Cup, the League Cup as a competition? I mean, the other thing just to add in there, I was just looking up the prize money as well for it. 100 grand to the winner. That's what the winner takes away. Runner up 50 grand, semi-finalist 25 grand, and it's a bit like, do you think the clubs care enough about it anymore?
I think it's more about money now. But from a Tottenham perspective, you can't discount a trophy on offer when you've
not at all.
Won one since 2008. Loads of people have been going on about, giving the Carabao Cup a bit of a rejig, really, especially with in this day and age where there's so many European games on the calendar now and trying to free up some space. Personally, anyone involved in Europe, I wouldn't allow in the cup. Let the others have a go, with the prize being you qualify for Europe. I think that'd make it. I think it'd certainly make it more appealing to watch because you see a lot of the big teams going with second string teams, and then City, who usually gets at final, then just go pretty much full strength in the final and win it. I think.
Does it diminish the cup more though because you're winning it without the bigger sides in it?
Yeah, I mean, there's that argument as well. A lot of people have also said maybe it's just time to scrap it. So I think something probably needs to be done with it. All these teams in Europe, people are always complaining all the time there's too much football. You've got more football on the calendar now because of the European expansions for the UEFA competitions. Yeah. So if they're going to do away with one competition, it's never going to be the FA Cup. People are up in arms anyway about the replays going. So it's all the League Cup's always going to be the one what's maybe on the chopping block, maybe needs reviewing. For me, like I said, I think maybe you do away with the teams in Europe.
But Spurs can't take another chance of a trophy away from Spurs. They need every chance they can get.
Just don't qualify for Europe then, and just have a good crack at the Carabao Cup.
Well, then we're kind of doing the same thing. We're missing out on that. But yeah, it's a funny competition. It might be that just because Spurs kind of had a bit of a mixed record. I mean, technically, it was their last trophy, so let's not remove that from existence. But yeah, I just, you talk about the money, and when I saw the prize money, it did make me think, like, internally in clubs, it's like, especially if you get like away draws in every game, you're not even bringing in decent gate receipts. Probably those who look at it from a business perspective are probably looking at it in that way. Absolutely, someone like Tottenham should be looking at it as a chance for a trophy, 100%. And I'm sure Postecoglou, he just wants games, he wants silverware, he wants whatever he can get his hands on. So I don't think it'll affect Spurs in that regard, but I do wonder whether the bigger clubs are kind of less and less bothered about it. I'm not saying Spurs aren't, but Spurs are just very hungry for a trophy.
Yeah, got to remember as well, Club World Cup coming in in the summer as well, and I imagine that's going to be every year except when there's a major tournament. I'm going to assume
there's just going to be so many injuries over the course of seasons, aren't there? Or like clubs are going to have like 35-man squads, and everyone's going to have like a Chelsea squad, aren't they?
Yeah, Chelsea probably know what's coming. That's why
maybe that's what it is. That big.
Yeah, so Europa League draw then tomorrow, taking place at midday. I think it's the Grimaldi Forum in Monaco. Tottenham set to be in pot one. You've got teams such as Manchester United in pot one, so Spurs can't come up against them. What it is now, change of format. It's not your traditional draw. UEFA are going to draw one team and then 8 opponents will come up. 4 will be home, 4 will be away. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everything goes. I think if people watch the Champions League draw Thursday evening, that'll give people a taste of what's to come tomorrow when the Europa League draw takes place. But pot one, got to be looking at Roma, Manchester United, Porto, Rangers, Eintracht Frankfurt, Lazio, Spurs. And then you're looking at pot 2, 3 and 4. Real Sociedad are going to be in there. They're a good team. Athletic Bilbao, they're going to be pot 4 as well. They're a really good team in the Liga. Nice looking like pot 3 or 4. So possibly a reunion with Tanguy Ndombele.
That'd be incredible. That'd be such a great narrative.
And then there's possibility of a reunion with Jose Mourinho as well. Looks like Fenerbahce going to be pot 2, Lyon pot 2. So there's 20 teams, I think, or 24 already confirmed for the Europa League draw. 12 more teams to come from the playoffs later this evening. Ajax looks set to be one of them. They're winning 4-1 from the first leg. Not going to pronounce the team who they're playing. No idea how you pronounce it.
Jagiellonia Bialystok, maybe?
We'll go with that. Lou de Gretz, who Tottenham played, I think, previously in the Europa League when Jose was manager, maybe. They look set to be in the Europa League. Maccabi Tel Aviv and PAOK as well. They're in a really good place to qualify. Hearts possibly could be in there. They're losing 1-0 to Victoria Pilsen. Braga, they're another decent team who've been in European competition in recent years. So, as you said earlier in the podcast, there's some really good teams in there and teams you'd want to avoid.
Yeah, the pots has not helped in terms of seedings. You know, you're getting 2 from every pot. I think, you can't have more than 2 from the same country, and you can't play anyone from your own country. But you could feasibly end up with Roma and Porto out of pot 1, Olympiacos and Lyon from the second one. There's loads. Just looking down the list, Athletic Club, Hoffenheim, Nice. Potentially Anderlecht in there as well. Fenerbahce away would not be an easy game at all.
Galatasaray as well. They're pot 2 or 3.
Yeah, Ajax. This is it. Yes, there's some names in there that you are going to have probably one that's a little bit more of a that's one you should win, or 1 or 2. But absolutely don't go into this thinking that it's going to be like kind of Conference League levels. It is quite right, as it should be, a level above that. Spurs could end up with some very tasty fixtures, and we'll find out when we at the weekend exactly kind of what order and when and who's home, who's away, and because that's the weird thing. You find out the 8 teams, and everyone's like, all the people that go on their European trips are probably thinking, okay, I want that one, and it's like it could be the complete other 4 that you think it's going to be.
Yeah, it's totally different. The draw this time, instead of the traditional groups, we're looking at a 36-team league. Top 8 qualify straight for the knockout round in February, March time. Then the teams between 8th and 24th take part in a playoff round, I think February, to find out who then goes through to the final knockout phase. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it works out. So there's a lot of people very critical about changing a format that works so well previously, and you didn't really need to change it.
It's about money. It's just money. Is all it is. Shock horror. More games, more TV money, more everything. It's
it's going to be a busy day Friday. Ange's press conference, Europa League draw at 12, transfer deadline day as well. You'll be reporting on that over the course of the day. So Tottenham will be looking to finalise deals between now and 11 p.m. on Friday.
Absolutely. Just literally as you're saying that, I don't know if you've noticed, your Neil Maupay has put out a tweet. It's because it's been confirmed he's leaving for Marseille, and he's done like a Shawshank Redemption tweet of him being finally free. Controversial. I mean, it's not an Everton podcast, so we can't really go into your thoughts on that, but I'm sure they're quite strong.
I think Everton fans probably have quite an opinion on it. I'm sure paths will cross at some time in the future as well. He'll end
yours and his? You're not planning to hunt him down, are you? That sounded very ominous.
Next season, when Everton are in Europe, that'll be
it. Well, that'll be a hell of a swing.
I imagine he'll be back in the Premier League at some point, won't he? You'd think.
He loves it, doesn't he? He loves all the drama. He loves all that sort of stuff. You know, I know it was a bit unpleasant for him, the scenes the other day, but he does, in the football sense, kind of get himself embroiled in everything. But yes, as for other transfers, non-Everton related, or it might not be, you never know. Spurs and Everton might do some business tomorrow. It's going to be a busy one. What would you, if you could have one, it's like a dream signing, but if you could have a position you'd like to see Spurs fill tomorrow, what would it be?
Centre back who can play as a left back as well. I think that'd probably be it in terms of an outgoing. If Richarlison wants to come back to Everton, that's fine.
Well, you need to replace one of your attackers, it seems, so it kind of makes sense. But you're not having him. You're not having him. Richarlison and Solanke, I think, will be a very good kind of front options up there. Following on from your answer, which would be the same answer as mine, I would also probably want a centre back at this point. If surely they're going to be in the same position that they were when they let Davinson Sanchez go, in having 3 natural centre backs.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were all complaining at the time that wasn't good enough.
Yeah, 100%. Something, there will be an injury or a suspension.
Oh yeah,
at some point between now and January. But Ange said Archie Gray can play there as well. I think they're leaving themselves one short if they don't sign a centre back. And you've got to factor in last season they went out at the Carabao Cup, first time of asking, no European football. There's going to be 6 more European games on the calendar before January, maybe 2 or 3 Carabao Cup games before then as well. A lot of football to come, and you just don't want to leave yourself too short in such a crucial position on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I know since then, I guess Ben Davies has kind of proved himself to Ange that he can be a centre-back, but I just still feel like there's not enough options to spread across that defence with injuries, because if Ben Davies, let's say, isn't playing left back, if he's rotating for a couple of these games, how does that work? Is Jed Spence going to have to go at left back instead of Ben Davies, who's playing in the centre with, let's say, Dragishin? Then who plays on the right? Because Jed Spence isn't there. You playing Archie Gray on the right instead of playing him in midfield, where he should probably be his position to develop. It's like I'm not entirely comfortable with that. And I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's only Postecoglou that's got to be comfortable with it. But I was just thinking that as we were kind of talking about it, it's like they had Dyer, Romero, and Van der Ven last season. That was it. And now they're leaving themselves with Romero, Van der Ven, and Dragishin. They haven't really fixed that situation in there. That's the one thing for me. But hey, he was quite clear in the press conference on Friday ahead of the game that no, he wasn't looking to bring in another centre-back. I just still feel like it would make sense if there was some kind of late opportunity. But again, having to go back to my own rules and the Premier League and UEFA rules, you would also have to leave someone else out to put them in, because right now, and this is something that we'll discuss after the transfer window. I'm trying to think, have we got a podcast before the Europa squad list has to be announced? I think that's the 3rd. Yeah, we might actually.
We'll be doing a podcast on Monday.
So we'll be able to... Yeah. So we'll discuss the Newcastle match, but then we'll also be able to discuss who gets left out, and maybe 2 people that gets left out if they do sign someone else tomorrow. I've got my own thoughts on that, but we'll discuss that in those podcasts. But yeah, tomorrow I'm still hoping for a late twist, but as it is right now, it looks like the outgoings are the focus.
I wonder, with the centre back, do they just, right, we've got enough cover, we can get away with it, and then next summer Luka Vuskovic is coming in, so why sign someone else for the sake of it to then block Luka's path 12 months down the
line?
And
Alfie Dorrington's back, maybe they'll feel like he could be another option in there. Obviously, he's only just come back from a serious hamstring injury after a few months out, but it's... And also, the kind of whole squad limit to it. I mean, Luka Vuskovic is going to come in. He'll still be a foreign player in terms of Europe, but certainly in the Premier League squad list, he'll be an under-21. Maybe. That's a great shout. I'd forgotten about it. That's the trouble when they kind of head off. And it's the same with Yang Min-hyuk as well. In January, he's going to come in as another winger. I mean, whether he'll get loaned out or not, I don't know. But yeah, there is that to take into account. I just worry that, exactly as you said, as soon as they were left with Dyer, Van der Ven, and Romero, not only did it become quite clear that Dyer couldn't play the system particularly well, but also Van der Ven got injured, out for months. Romero got suspended, and we were ending up with fullbacks together, and then in Emerson and Ben Davies as a centre back. So with more games, there's even more chance of that happening. So yeah, that's one where I was a bit surprised when he said that he kind of was okay there, but who knows? Archie Gray, the first time he's ever played as a centre back, might have really wowed him in pre-season. But I mean, he was good in the role. I wouldn't waste him there personally, but if he believes he can play there, he's the boss.
Yep. We'll leave that there for today's latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham. We'll be back on Monday. But in the meantime, just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Gold Guest. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box.